Hello everyone, welcome to Module 1. This module goes from the 15th to the 28th. So let's take a second to look over what's in this module, and then we'll talk about why this module is important and where we're going next. So in Module 1, you'll read chapters 5 through 6. Chapters 1, 5, and 6. In Chapter 1, it talks about what is action research. In Chapter 5, it talks about different methods that we can use to collect data. And then Chapter 6, it talks about how we analyze data. You'll take another second to look at what is action research in the brief PowerPoint slide that's posted in this module. But the basic idea of action research as educators is that we're not just making conclusions based on theories, but we're taking a look at the data that we have. We're conducting a mini study in our classroom, in our school, and then we are reacting and we are changing our practices based on that research. So after you've done the reading, some of it's probably not going to be new knowledge, so feel free to skim just some refresher knowledge. Then take a second to look over the equity audit. You don't have to do the whole thing, but this just might get your mind flowing and might get you thinking about what's next and maybe a topic for study in this class. Then skim through the PowerPoints. There's 3 of them in the module overview. One's on action research, one's on qualitative data, and one's on quantitative data. There's also a data sort that's an optional activity just to help you know the difference between qualitative and quantitative data. We'll use both in this course. After that, I'd start to participate in the discussion boards. You can participate them in earlier, and remember you should be participating in them at least 6 times during the course of the module. Once for your early posts, and then reacting to your colleagues at least twice on each of the threads. There's 2 required threads in this module and then 1 optional. The required one asks you to look first at one of 2 research articles, both through an equity lens, but in this case you're looking at it through a researcher. So as the researcher, identify why was this study important? What were some benefits of doing this study? What were some takeaways, or what were some good things that the study allowed for, that the study format allowed for? The other required discussion board thread just asks you to think about how you've used data in your field. This should be an easy discussion board, but hopefully it'll help you share ideas. We're educators after all, so the word data is something that we use every day. And then finally, think about the question and data analysis project. That'll be due at the end of the module, which is on the 28th of March. So why is action research an important part of a program based on equity and inclusion and making equitable progress in our schools? Putman and Rock, the authors of our book, write on page 4, we may need to shift our mindset to actively thinking about conducting our own research, whether formal or informal, develop our own conclusions, and to lead the narrative, instead of being reactive to the constantly shifting landscape that is teaching. I think this is pretty important, and I think this really tells us about why action research is important if we're going to make change and we're going to lead with equity in mind. It's not enough just to react to what our administrators tell us. It's not enough just to react to simple changes in this constantly swinging pendulum, as the authors talk about, of education. But looking at the data that we have in front of us, looking at our students, really taking a dive into what's helping our students, conducting our own research, and then leading with that. Hopefully that's the thing that you've taken away from this program so far, is that in order to make change and have more equitable schools, we need leaders who are going to help lead that narrative. So think about that as you're going through and skimming the readings, but also as we move through this course. The purpose of our research plan that we're going to be developing in this course is so that we can look at some equity issues, dive deeper into the literature on them, but then also make change based on the data that we're gathering and analyzing. So the deliverable, or the assignment, the major assignment for this module, is the question and data analysis project. This shouldn't take you too long. It's not a huge project, but it really is the first step that we need to take in the overall goal of the course, which is developing a research plan. So what you're going to be doing is creating a PowerPoint or slide deck to share some data. So first of all, after you've looked at the equity audit or thought about some things that you've looked at in your previous coursework, pick 3 equity issues that you have in your school, your classroom, or your office. For each equity issue, find and present at least 2 data points, 2 data sets, and then present them. When I say present them, I mean like if you have some quantitative data, maybe you're going to present them in a bar graph, or maybe you're going to analyze them in a different chart. Qualitative data, maybe you're going to share some of the main ideas that were taken away from a case study from a student. But have 2 data points or 2 data presentations for each of the equity issues. Then also for each equity issue, look at the data that you have and look at the strengths and the weaknesses. What does the data say? What does it say about what is going well in your school or office or classroom? And where do you need to improve? That could be both based on the practices going on, based on the culture going on in your school, and maybe one of the weaknesses is that you need more data on this topic. But think about what does it say, and then present your final project in a PowerPoint or slide deck. Probably 1 to 2 slides per equity issue, 1 slide showing your data, 1 slide showing your strengths and your weaknesses. Quickly looking at the rubric, you're graded on identifying the equity issue, providing and displaying the data sets, and then identifying the strengths and weaknesses. The main point of this project is just for us to think about some issues that we can take further, but also make sure that we can quickly analyze and present data. So remember that this project is due at the end of this first module. We click the link at the top to turn it in. So let's take one more quick second to look at what's next. So in this first module, we'll pick 3 topics. In our next module, Module 2, we'll narrow that focus down from one of your 3 topics to one single one that we're going to focus on throughout the rest of the course. So we'll pick our focus and then we'll begin to describe the purpose for our research. You'll do that in a memo to your principal. In Module 3, we'll continue to look at the topic or the equity focus that you are looking at and begin to search for some academic literature and then write a literature review on it. And then Module 4 will put all those pieces together, your purpose, your literature review, and add in the development of a research plan. Now, if you skip to Module 4 and you look at the rubric for the research plan at the end, it looks pretty overwhelming. But please, like I said in the first video, it is not. This course is totally designed to build on the process. So in Module 2 and Module 3, we will be working together to develop the major part of that final paper so that by the time we get to Module 4, all we have to do is work on quickly writing a simple research plan. If you have any questions throughout the week, don't hesitate to reach out. The best way to contact me is through McDaniel email. If I don't respond to you by the end of the day, I'll respond to you the next day. Hope that you all have a great week, and I look forward to seeing you on the discussion boards.